What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we've got an Indie World partner showcase to speculate about. That's right, earlier this morning at 9 a.m. as they usually do, making me wake up nice and early for these announcements. Just kidding, I woke up at like 11 a.m. today and saw it on my phone. Indie World, not for tomorrow, but for Thursday. An announcement 48 hours ahead of time, which usually isn't how Nintendo does things, but a lot of what Nintendo has done these last 2 years has not been the usual for them as a company and as a communicator of information and of gaming news. So, out of the ordinary is the ordinary with Nintendo, which is often the case. And I talked about last week how I was a little bit confuzzled, if that's a word, feels right, about Nintendo's plan in 2025, because we're sitting here on August 5th and we still don't know the release dates for games like Metroid Prime and Kirby Air Riders and Hyrule Warriors and Splatoon Raiders, and the list goes on. And we've got to get those at some point, and I thought maybe Nintendo was scrambling, and I was even about to make a video on it, but with this Indie World announcement, it seems like it might be business as usual with the company. Not because of the Indie World announcement specifically, that doesn't materially change things for Nintendo in 2025, but because someone predicted this, or I guess more accurately, leaked it. The great Switch Force, who's been in the game for years. I used to love him as a kid, but I have less time to watch YouTube these days, so I check in periodically, but he leaked this. He said there was going to be a presentation this week for Nintendo. He pretty heavily insinuated that it was going to be an Indie World, and lo and behold, we have an Indie World announced for Thursday. And he also said as a part of this leak that it's step 2 of a 3-step plan, with that third step being, of course, a general direct, likely in September. And he said that Nintendo isn't scrambling. This has always been the plan for them. I guess I don't 100% buy that, not from Zach's perspective. I think he's right in the information he's sharing. Clearly, he knew about this Indie World that no one was talking about, but I'm not 100% sold that Nintendo has always planned for this to be the case, because it has seemed a little bit haphazard, a little bit sloppy, a little bit messy, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Nintendo has always planned to do it as weird as they've been doing it this year in terms of communicating with us when their games are going to come out and giving us new information on stuff coming to the Switch 2. But regardless, the important part is, according to Zach, it seems like, and he didn't say this specifically, but he insinuated that we are going to get a big general direct in a few weeks, so that'll be exciting. But Nintendo, as I said, so graciously gave us 48 hours notice ahead of time for this Indie World, and that means I can make a predictions video and get it out to you a day before. But the issue is, it's really hard to predict Indie Worlds. They're always very random. There's a lot of announcements that no one's expecting, cool announcements, no doubt, announcements that make you go, oh, that's cool, but ones you certainly weren't expecting to see at the event. So instead of doing a predictions like I would usually do for a direct, I'm instead going to do a list of 15 games I'm excited to potentially see at this Indie World. 15 games that have either been confirmed for the Switch, rumored for the Switch, or just games I'd like to see come to the Switch and Switch 2 over the next year that I think would be perfect fits for this Indie World direct partner showcase. I don't know what they technically classify it as, but regardless, there's a lot of cool stuff we could see at this Indie World presentation, and best case, you see all of these games on Thursday and you got a heads up from your pal Nick. Worst case, you've got 15 new indie games to look into that look pretty cool, look exciting, and are probably going to come out in the next year or so. So it's a win-win for you, the humble viewer. Let's get into it. 15 games that I'm excited to see at this week's Indie World presentation. So the first 3 games on my list are games that we have release dates for, but are games that I think could get demos at this Indie World. Because one thing that Zach also teased was that there was going to be a demo for a game at this Indie World. And I think from his video, the insinuation was that it would be the 3rd game that I have on this list, but I think all 3 of these games could make sense for some sort of demo. The first game is Off, which is a game I've talked about before in my Summer Games Fest video because this was a game that was shown off at Day of the Devs. It's a revival of an old 8-bit Earthbound-inspired RPG that is beloved by a lot of people on the internet and even inspired Toby Fox in his making of Undertale. There seems to be a really cool story here, a really cool just game design and world design, and it even has a demo on Steam right now. So that's why I think it could make sense for a demo on Switch if there's already a demo on Steam. The issue though is that this game comes out this month, so it might be a little too late for a demo. Perhaps they'll just mention it in the direct and say it's coming out in a few weeks. Regardless, this game looks really cool. I'd love to see another look at it here, give it a little bit more of a boost, but I think this game will do just fine on its own because it's so beloved in certain circles. Speaking of games that are beloved, Shantae is getting a new game in a few weeks. Shantae Risky Revolution was just announced to get a release date of later this month, and I think it could also be a game that would make sense for a demo considering that it is coming out soon, but like Off, it might be too soon. With this game coming out in a few weeks, it might not make sense to demo it, but I do think regardless, we will see this game at the Indie World because I'm pretty sure you can't pre-order this on Nintendo consoles, even though we know that. Bro, PlayStation, I don't want Wu Chang Fallen Frontiers. Oh my god. Regardless, I do think we're going to see this at the Indie World because I don't think you can pre-order this game on Nintendo consoles, even though we know it's coming to Nintendo consoles this August. So I think they'll give us a little blurb. You know, Nintendo and WayForward have a really good relationship, so it would make sense to see something about Shantae here at this Indie World. The third game, and the one I think is most likely to get a demo here, is Mina the Hollower, which is a game coming from Yacht Club Games, the developers of Shovel Knight, which is a game that is of course synonymous with Nindies and Indie World. Like Shovel Knight felt like the first big Nintendo indie game. Not to say it came out first on Nintendo or did the best on Nintendo, but when I think of Shovel Knight, I think of the Wii U and the Switch. So needless to say, it would make sense for Mina the Hollower to show up here. And even more to that point, it is yet to be officially announced for Nintendo consoles, which is odd because this is a game that you'd expect to do the best on Nintendo consoles, especially because it seems to be a 2D Zelda-like game. Yacht Club Games has teased a little bit that there could be an announcement on the Nintendo front for Mina, and I think it'll come at this Direct, and like Off, it already has a demo on Steam, so I think it could be a really good candidate for a demo. Probably a game that demos really well, just given the first area or something of the game, because it looks really cool in all the trailers we've seen. It's coming out October 31st, pretty fun, coming out on Halloween, so we already know when this game is coming out. We just don't know if it's coming day and date to the Switch. I'd imagine it's going to, and I'd imagine we're going to hear about it at this Direct, perhaps with a demo as well. Now let's get to some games that don't have dates that I think we could see dates for at this Indie World. Now, let it be known that we don't always get announcements of dates of previously released games at Indie Worlds. A lot of the time, it is new games coming to the Switch that, you know, Switch gamers might not have heard of before. But for fun, let's talk about some indie games that need dates, and I'm super excited for it. The first one is Coffee Talk Tokyo, which has already shown up in an Indie World in the past. This has a release window of 2025. We need a specific date for it. I could definitely see this one showing up in a sizzle reel somewhere. It's sort of a virtual novel type game where you make coffee and converse with customers. It's a very cozy game series. This one looks great. I'm excited for it. Hopefully we get a date nailed down at this Direct. Another game that has shown up in multiple Directs already is Witchbrook, a game coming from Chucklefish this year. Like with Coffee Talk, it has a vague winter 2025 window attached to it. But we saw gameplay for this game at the March Direct, and then we saw it in a sizzle reel at the April Direct. So this is a game that's going to be on Switch and Switch 2. I definitely think a date could happen here, especially in a sizzle reel type thing. Makes a lot of sense. This is sort of an immersive life sim. Beautiful pixel art in this game. Anything Chucklefish is involved with interests me because I feel like everything they develop or publish is awesome. And they're co-developing this game, so I'm sure it'll be great. Can't wait to check it out. Hope we get a date. Another game that we saw in that Switch 2 Direct is Hades 2, which I believe is either in early access or just straight up released on Steam right now, so we should be getting the Nintendo Switch 2 version soon. I don't think it's going to shadow drop at this Direct. That feels a little bit too sudden, but I definitely think we could get a new trailer and a date. This is something that could open or close the Direct. Like, it's a huge deal. Hades 1 is one of the most popular indie games of all time. It's a great game. I have it physically back there. Can't wait for Hades 2. I almost wonder if this is too big of a game for an indie world, perhaps like Silksong, which we'll talk about in a second. It could be fodder for a general Direct or Gamescom or something because it is that big of a deal, but I think it could also show up here with a date, so it'll go on the list. Another game that has also been announced for Switch and Switch 2, but still doesn't have a date, is Mouse PI for Hire. This game looks awesome. I talked about this one in the Summer Games Fest video as well. This was in Summer Games Fest proper, which sort of surprised me. Troy Baker is voicing a character in this game, which is wild to me, but it looks awesome. The art style is so cool. It's a first-person shooter in this like old school Steamboat Willie art style. I really hope we get a date for this at the Indie World because I'm so excited for this game. I'm surprised they didn't date it at Summer Games Fest. That felt odd to me, but I'm sure they're still, fine-tuning this game. Again, it's announced for Switch and Switch 2. This is definitely one I'm picking up on Switch 2 because I feel like, if it's blurry on the Switch, if it doesn't run very well, that'll take away from the vibe. But if it's on the Switch 2, running at 60, looking sharp, this game's going to be excellent. So I hope we see a little bit more about it in the Indie World. The final announced game I'd like to see a date for, Yooka-Laylee, which is another game that is set to release in 2025. They've been teasing this game for Nintendo Switch 2, but I don't think they've officially announced it. I kind of wonder if Playtonic doesn't actually have a dev kit yet, and they're waiting to announce a date until they get a dev kit and make sure the game is working well on Switch 2. So I'm sort of doubtful that we'll see it at this Indie World, but time is running out for this game to come out in 2025, and I am super excited for it. I liked the original Yooka-Laylee. It obviously had its issues, but it was a very fun 3D platformer, and this remake looks so good. It looks like they fixed a lot of my problems I had with the original game, and I think it could be one of the best 3D platformers to come out in a while. So I hope we see more. I hope we get a date. But I just feel a little pessimistic. I think we might have to wait a little longer for Yooka-Laylee, but I'd love to see it here with a date for sometime in 2025. One more thing that isn't a game, but is still something that has a 2025 release window and needs a date, Balatro DLC. We're supposed to get DLC for Balatro, and we had Balatro DLC announced in the last Indie World, so I think this could be a perfect place for Balatro DLC, and if they want to announce more DLC in the future, I would love to see a Nintendo collab with Balatro. That feels like such an easy win for both sides, but I'm sure that won't happen. Just throwing it out into the universe, I think that'd be sick, but regardless, we have other Balatro DLC we're expecting this year. I think it would be a perfect announcement for the Indie World. Okay, now I've got 6 games that aren't officially announced for the Switch, but would make a lot of sense for the Switch. The first one isn't really an indie game. It's kind of an indie game, kind of not. That's the Rogue Prince of Persia, which I don't believe is made by the actual Prince of Persia team, but is Prince of Persia, so you can debate whether it's actually an indie game or not. This is a 2D side-scroller Prince of Persia, really cool art style. People seem to like it because it's already out on Steam. A console version got leaked a few weeks ago. I assumed it was going to be in the partner showcase, but it wasn't, so it definitely could be in the indie world. Perhaps that's a Gamescom announcement, perhaps that's a September Direct announcement, but it could certainly be here. This game looks cool. I'd like to play it on the Switch, so hopefully that gets announced at this Direct. Next one here is Mouthwashing, and this is a game that I believe got an announcement for consoles, including the Nintendo Switch, but doesn't have a date or even window for when it's coming to the console. So I think this would make a lot of sense for the indie world. This would be a big announcement, even if it's not a shadow drop, even if we just get a date for it coming in 2025 to the Switch. I haven't played it, but this game has taken the internet by storm. It's a sort of old school horror game. It's got that, lo-fi sort of 3D modeling design that a lot of horror games have taken up over the last few years. Looks really cool. I'd love to play it, but I am holding out for that Switch version because horror games and the Switch are just a perfect match. So I'm waiting for a Switch version. Hopefully we get a date here. Again, I don't know if it was actually announced for the Switch or not. I think it was. So technically this would be a date, but whatever. I'm putting it in the new game category because I think it would be a big announcement for the Switch because I don't think a lot of people realize that it's supposed to be coming. And it's a game that, again, has taken the internet by storm. This next one I think would be a really big deal, and I think would be the biggest announcement that we could possibly get from this Indie World Showcase, and that's Blue Prince. This game has, again, taken the world by storm. It's an indie, roguelike, room escape type of game, which sounds really cool. Sounds right up my alley, maybe besides the roguelike thing. I don't love roguelikes, I guess, but this has been a game that has gotten a lot of hype. I remember last year people were talking about how excited they were for it, and then it came out this year, I believe simultaneously on Game Pass and PS Plus, which you don't see often, but it hasn't come out on the Switch or the Switch 2, and I think this could be a game that would be Switch 2 only, not even Switch 1. It's not the most graphically intensive game, but it is a next-gen type of game, so I wonder if it would skip the Switch 1, but this is definitely something I could see opening or closing an indie world, right? Like, this would be a big announcement for the Switch 2 and would definitely get people excited. Personally, I'll probably just play it on PS Plus one day. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but it seems really cool. I hope it comes to Switch 2. Makes perfect sense. It's another game that could make more sense in a general direct for sure, because it is a really big deal. A lot of people love Blue Prince. It could be a Game of the Year contender, so maybe not an Indie World game, but it is technically an indie, so it could definitely show up here. All right, let's talk about the Team Cherry-sized elephant in the room, Hollow Knight Silksong. Do we think this is finally the place where we get Hollow Knight Silksong? I don't think so. I think this game has always been destined to get a date at Gamescom, which isn't an Xbox event, but Xbox loves Gamescom. They always announce stuff at Gamescom. This game is sort of being marketed with Xbox's new handheld, sort of not. That situation is very confusing, but I think we're going to get a release date for Silksong at Gamescom. I could see this showing up in a sizzle reel in the indie world with a 2025 window and pissing people off again. But if that does happen, let it be known that you only will likely have to wait a few more weeks, because I'm almost certain this game is getting dated at Gamescom. It just makes too much sense. I think the indie world is too small of a stage for a Silksong release date, so I think Gamescom, or maybe a September Direct, but I think we're pushing it at that point. I think this game is coming out soon, so I think Gamescom or a General Direct makes more sense for Silksong, unfortunately, but those aren't too far away, so only a month more to wait, potentially, for Silksong. The last two are games that would get me really excited. Realistically, only one of them is even possible. The last one is a pie-in-the-sky sort of hope, but I think UFO 50 is a realistic hope for this Direct. It's not my pie-in-the-sky pick. UFO 50 is a game I'm surprised isn't on Switch already. This was a game that was shown off at Day of the Devs in 2024, and from the moment I saw it, I was hooked. It's a collection of a bunch of mini games, essentially. They're genuine games all in their own right, sort of retro experiences, but they're all packaged together of this fictional UFO soft company that made all of these small games for like plug-and-play devices or arcades or consoles back in the day. That's sort of the story here, is that UFO Soft is a retro company who made all of these games, and that's sort of the overarching narrative of all of these seemingly unrelated little retro mini games that are included in this package. It's such a cool idea for a game, and I haven't been able to play it because it's only on Steam right now. It makes so much sense for the Switch. I could even see it being shadow dropped in this Direct. It's just such a perfect freaking fit. I'll go crazy if this gets announced. Honestly, that would get me more excited than anything we saw in the partner showcase last week, because this game just looks awesome. Everyone who has played it raves about it. I know I'm gonna love it. Just waiting for it to finally freaking come out for the Switch. And then the last one, again, a pie-in-the-sky dream type of announcement, but I gotta bring it up. Haunted Chocolatier, the next game from Concerned Ape, the creator of Stardew Valley. He mentioned, I think about a year ago, that he was shifting his focus from Stardew Valley, which gets consistent updates, over to Haunted Chocolatier, which is his new game that got announced. And he was mentioning how he made good progress on it. Obviously, Concerned Ape is just a guy. He probably gets help from other people, but this is not like a huge development studio, so this game is going to take a while. It might not come out till like 2030 or something, right? This is a game that we're probably not going to see for a while, but maybe he's made really good progress and he's ready to give us a new trailer. Oh, I could only hope, because this game looks awesome. We saw a trailer a few years ago. It looks stunning. It looks so fun. There's like RPG elements. Oh God, I just can't wait for this game. It's gonna be one of my favorite games of whatever year it comes out in. I I'm almost certain that it's too early to get a date or even a window or even new gameplay for this, but boy, would it be an awesome announcement to have at this Indie World, so let me dream. Well, those are 15 games I could see at this Indie World that I think would be pretty darn cool. Even if we only get a few of these games, I think we're in for a pretty good Indie World. Me personally, I think I'm more excited for this than the Partner Showcase, especially after seeing that Partner Showcase and it being pretty darn disappointing. I think this could easily outperform the Partner Showcase for me because there's a lot of cool stuff I'm waiting on, especially UFO 50. If we get UFO 50, this is going to be better than the Partner Showcase for me. I'm really excited for that game. Really hoping it comes out and gets shadow dropped at this Indie World presentation. But let me know in the comments, what are you excited for at this Indie World? What game would you like to see announced, dated, ported, whatever? Tell me in the comments. It's a party. I'll be responding to comments down there. We have a good time. Join it. Comment section. You know where it is. If you don't, it's that way. Make sure to like the video. Subscribe, hit that big, fat button. Share the video with a friend who loves indies or needs a little bit of pushing, a little bit of convincing to play some indie games, because I think we're going to see some really fun ones on Thursday. Also, follow me on Backlogged. I don't usually say this in videos, but follow me on Backlogged to see what I've been playing. I'm doing a little review project on Backlogged right now, playing every Muppet game that I can. It's kind of fun. It's going to be a video one day. I plan to make that a video. I played every Muppet game, you know, but that's long term. Right now, I'm just doing reviews on Backlogged and giving my thoughts on all sorts of admittedly pretty bad Muppet games that are available across all these different systems. So check me out over there. Follow me. All that good stuff. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.